Washougal City Council workshop meeting. Rose, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember McDaniel.
Here.
Councilmember Greenlee.
Here.
Councilmember Shoemaker.
Here.
Councilmember Freeman.
Here.
Councilmember Boger. Councilmember Plinsky. And Councilmember Lindsay.
We're just at a quorum, so we will go ahead and get started. I know Councilmember Lindsay will not be here this evening, and Councilmember Plinsky is running just a few minutes late. Are there any members of the public that would like to address council? It's a quiet group. Okay, seeing none at this point, we are going to go into our first order of business for this evening, new market tax credit project. Paul, good evening. Come on up, bring the group. I'll let you do introductions around.
I'll do introductions, but I'll let our two guests do most of the talking around the subject. With me today is Steve Brooks and Don Mazziotti. One of the things that we've been trying to develop at CWEDA is a number of incentive tools to help incentivize development. And in particular, a program that we've been looking at over the last couple of years and have had extreme difficulty in getting anyone from the outside world to give us any time of day is new market tax credits. And we ran into Steve and Don through some mutual acquaintances and got to talking about new market tax credits. Both of them have extensive backgrounds in this program. They have extensive backgrounds in economic development and so forth. So with that, I would like to allow Don and Steve to kind of present the program to you. We've been to the city of Camas. We've been to the port of Camas-Washougal to talk about this. And we have what's generated the most recent interest in this is we have a lot of private sector investors, developers that really would like to make use of this program. It's a program that Washougal, almost in its entirety geographically, could make use of this program. For Camas, it would really be made use of in their east side of town. And with that, I'll let Don and Steve explain what the program is from a very high level perspective.
Okay, thanks, Paul. My name is Don Mazziotti. I live at 1466 Southwest Highland Road in Portland, and Steve will have to tell you where he lives.
Stephen Brooks. I live in Portland at 3545 Northeast 25th Avenue. I haven't said my address out loud for a long time.
And you don't know your phone number at all?
No.
That's okay.
Well, thank you for taking time out to listen to us, and thanks to Paul, who we've been working with for several months about the potential program that I'm going to discuss with you, and then open it to questions. I'd like to keep it at a fairly high level because it's an extremely complex program. At the same time, we're open to any questions that you want to throw at us. We'll see if we can handle them. What we are talking about is principally an economic development initiative or vehicle. It is a vehicle called the New Market Tax Credit Program. It is a federal program and has been in existence for about 12 years. It is in the process of being made permanent, permanent feature of the federal government. It is administered by the U.S. Department of Treasury, as opposed to many other programs which are in housing and urban development or Commerce Department or elsewhere. The Treasury Department is not only the administrator of this program, but they also make the decisions with regard to the award of new market tax credits to projects, and they do it on a project-by-project basis. And it's a highly competitive program, meaning there's an allocation made annually by the Congress of several $billion. There are far more applicants for the program than there are awards made, as you might imagine. And that has only grown because the program has proven to be, according to the Congressional Budget Office, the most effective, single most effective economic development program in the federal arsenal of programs. And that's primarily because it's designed to attract private sector investment into areas that are eligible. The U.S. Treasury decides on an annual basis what communities or parts of communities are or are not eligible. They issue maps sometimes annually that tell you where those boundaries are. As it happens, and as Paul has mentioned, virtually all of Washougal, Washington is in an eligible tax credit position geographically, which is very unusual. It's a measure of the absence of sufficient, in the judgment of the Treasury, sufficient private sector investment, or having the potential and need for private sector investment to aid its economic development program. So there are kind of two sides to their judgment. The attract private investment feature is unique in that without private sector funding, nothing happens under the program. And the way it works is that for every dollar that a private developer puts into a prospective project, the U.S. Treasury gives them or allows them to take 39 cents of tax credit over a 7-year period against their federal income tax obligations. So there's no direct subsidy here, but rather a tax forgiveness in order to attract investment. This is not a new idea. It's worked extensively in the housing sector for 40 or 50 years. It's different than the housing sector in that the program does not support housing. That's one of the eligible uses that cannot be funded or used by the New Market Tax Credit Program. However, it can be used for virtually everything else except drive-in theaters, tanning beds, and such. Those are not things that are given tax credits, and there's...
Probably marijuana retail wouldn't work either, would it?
I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure.
Well, nothing illegal.
Right.
So
Right.
technically, I think that's still illegal at the federal level.
We have not investigated that, nor is it one of
No
our
one's
targets.
ever asked.
It's not a target.
Yeah.
What we think it can, these tax credits can do for Washougal, for that matter, Camas and the port, as one region in effect, is to attract private sector investment that otherwise would not be here, as Paul has mentioned. And we think that these credits are so effective in attracting investment that if you have a community plan, and you do, and if you have some targeted investment opportunities or areas of interest, whether it be the downtown or the waterfront, for example, that those become potentially eligible for the tax credits depending upon how important they are to the creation of jobs and bringing money into the community or funds into the community. So it can help fulfill the vision that we've read about that you have. And in that respect, it's a great program applied properly. It is at the same time a program that requires a great deal of work to put together. And one of the principal pieces of that work is to form what is called a Community Development Entity, a CDE. Only CDEs, which are a creature of the federal government but locally established. A CDE is the entity that is eligible to receive and allocate the credits to projects. The good thing about CDEs is, while created by federal rule, they are controlled by local people. So it's local control if you satisfy, good afternoon, if you satisfy the requirements of the federal regulations. Establishing the CDE has two components, aside from the regulations that you have to comply with. Number one, there's a governing board that actually governs the operation of the CDE and is subject to various audits and internal controls and other kinds of things that you would want to characterize any entity that you worked with. And secondly, an advisory board. The advisory board in some ways is more important than the governing board because it's a steadfast requirement and it must represent or be broadly representative of low and moderate income people and/or organizations in the community. One of the targets of this program is to improve and benefit individuals who fall within that population category. Now, that does not mean that they control the investments that are made or necessarily contribute funding to the enterprise. It does mean, however, that their voice must be heard, and as the name suggests, they are advisory in nature and don't have voting control over the allocation of tax credits should you receive a tax credit allocation. Steve and I have worked together for about 10 years on new market tax credits around the country. We've secured about $700 million in tax credits. There are 12 or 15 projects in Portland, for example, that were, but for new market tax credits, would not have been built. There are equal number in Seattle that have used new market tax credits, and so we're not talking about a program that hasn't been tried and made true before. However, getting into a small community or into a rural area has been a challenge because either the expertise is not there or the market is not big enough to attract people who can build it for you, and it really does need to be built for you. The second part, once a CDE is established, is to do the economic analysis necessary to prove up the market and make certain that the market is fully understood in economic terms so that investments or allocations made by the governing body can be proven up to be more than just blue sky or on somebody's wish list, but a project for which there's actual demand and the probability of success. The third phase of such an effort is to identify projects that do qualify, that are economically justified or by the marketplace, and are desired by the community and would benefit the community. And so those three phases, when completed, result in an application for a project or projects that are submitted to the U.S. Department of Treasury in competition with dozens of other communities. And if the story is good enough, if the need is verified and vetted by you and others, and if the Treasury sees them as being both competitive and beneficial to the community, or more beneficial than others perhaps, an award is given. And the award is given to the community development entity that I described earlier. And the community development entity then typically enters into agreements with a lender who wishes to participate with debt into a financing structure. They might also be the investor, although typically the investor or investors would be a group of private sector individuals who wish to invest in the community for that project. Once the approval and allocation is made, and once all of those hurdles are cleared, and we are expert in that regard, and I don't say that, I'm not bragging about it, we've just been through run this gauntlet a number of times. If all those pieces fall together, then a project results and gets financed. It not only has the 39-cent return guarantee, it also has whatever the project itself produces in the way of profit margin for the sponsors. Not all projects are for profit, however. There are nonprofit projects that can be sponsored. A good example for you, if you're familiar with downtown Portland, Union Gospel Mission has a rehabilitation center for people who are in drug recovery, and it accommodates about 60 people, and that was all accomplished as a result of the new market tax credit program. If, on the other hand, you know about the Center Stage Armory project, that's a new market tax credit project, without which it would not have been built. There simply would not have been enough money or credit available. The new market tax credit constitutes, in a typical case, about 20% of total project cost. the net amount that is realized from the credit is around 17%. What happens to the other 3% is largely that is allocated to the costs of lawyers, investment bankers, and others who have to participate in the project and bring the net down to about 17%, but no less than that.
We have a new market tax credit project in Clark County, right?
You do, and in fact, it was financed by a company that I founded called United Fund Advisors. And United Fund Advisors provided the tax credit allocation into the Far West Steel project at the Port of Vancouver, without which Greg Specht, who was the developer, could not have accomplished the project. And it produced a significant number of construction and now permanent jobs, which is terrific and an example of what can be done. Clark County, however, does not have a CDE that is operating. And so if we were to establish a CDE among the two communities in Port here, you would be the only operating CDE at this point in time. And that's significant in and of itself because it provides a center of gravity for economic transaction or economic development that otherwise would not exist. That's a high-level overview of what the program is about. It takes time and money, obviously, to put all this together and to meet those three phases. And we've submitted a proposal to Paul that outlines, here are the steps that we would have to go through. This is what it would cost to go through them. We want to get moving as soon as we can because the federal government posts the availability of the tax credits. And Steve, maybe you want to talk about that calendar and when all of that is likely to happen.
Ordinarily, the credit announcement is done in the end of August, and you usually have 6 weeks to file the application. The application itself is usually about 80 pages long and takes about 200 to 250 hours to complete. As Don said, only CDEs can apply, so before you apply, you have to be certified as a CDE, and that process takes another application, which is another 100 hours of work. So there's a...
Sorry.
Oh. So there's a... So by the end of August, you have to have your CDE in place in order to be able to apply for the credits. So, you know, as we kind of work the timeline backwards, we're thinking April is when all of the economic analysis needs to get done, and then you form the CDE and then apply for your certification as a CDE, and then basically the application comes out and you know, put that out, and then they announce the awards usually the following spring. So last year's application was due at the end of September or early October, and the announcement is in April, probably the second or third week of April this year. And then, and all the people who got awards, whether they got an award or not this round, they will reapply in August for more credits. So it's every year you can apply. It's about 25 to 30% success rate. So there are a number of groups that get allocations every year. There are some that only get one and then never get another one. There are some that get an allocation every year, 2 or 3 years. And then there's always a handful of groups who apply for the first time every year. But it's, again, it's a very competitive process. So, you know, the sooner you can get started and the more kind of substance you can have before the application comes out, higher level of success.
3 quick questions. What's the average dollar amount for the average award?
The average award is in the neighborhood of $45 million of credit authority, which means essentially they have the right to raise about $45 million in cash. Okay. So I think that's the average.
That's a good beginning for Washougal. Would Soweta be our agent in this program?
Let me touch upon that. So what our thinking is to have the three partners come together with a professional service agreement between the three entities, QUITA taking the lead. The CDE would be a separate entity from QUITA. It would not be QUITA itself. We believe that the EDA really should be the entity promoting business development and really focused in on business development and not into some of the other activities. But the CDE and the new market tax credits would be a tool that QUITA could use. And so we've had that question. So the contract would be held with us. We're willing to put up, as an organization, put up the retainer to get them moving. But we're asking each of the three partners to provide the seed money to get the CDE in the program moving.
Which is my third question. What's the seed money to get us not only started, but all the way through the gauntlet to the awards?
So the total cost that has been scoped out is $87,500. We're asking the port to front half. We're asking each of the cities to front 25%. That would get us to application, correct, Steve?
Yes.
To where we're waiting to see if we get awarded. Like I mentioned before, we have private sector interests, and we've asked them to carry us from there on forward. So we're just asking for one-time seed money, and then we're asking our private sector interests to carry us from then on out.
And sorry to interrupt
No.
the question, but as Don was explaining before, there are fees built into the structure. The Treasury expects CDEs to be not only self-sustaining, but also potentially profitable. So there are many CDEs that earn money above and beyond their expenses, and it should function as a self-sustaining entity. The only way it wouldn't self-sustain is if it didn't get allocation, and in that case, it wouldn't have any function. So the normal course is the first year you apply. If you get an allocation, that allocation would ordinarily be large enough to sustain your operations, at least until you're administering the first transaction, and then ideally it would continue forward. Also, as Don said, the investment must remain in the project for 7 years, and so most of these projects have a built-in fee schedule for the CDE to cover the administrative costs of that project. So you'll have a fund set aside to cover your audit expense and your tax reporting and your administrative costs as well. So in short, this is not a program where you're back every year saying, oh, we actually need a little more money.
There's also a need to invest in the community. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, yeah, in most cases, the CDE that makes a margin, depending upon the number of private sector participants, would create a revolving fund that would be a redevelopment fund targeted toward the community. Now, all of that needs to be fleshed out and detailed in terms of structure, but we've done that in, I'd say, a majority of communities where we've gotten tax credits. So the program lives on beyond its first year and first allocation, and that is a design feature that we would want to happen if you want it to happen.
As an example, on the reinvestment concept, the second year we got an allocation at, which was then Portland Family of Funds. We created a small business loan fund, which was a partnership with U.S. Bank. We created a $5 million small business fund that made business loans at about half of the market rate. That the loans were both below market rate, but also non-traditional terms, like you didn't have the same kind of collateral requirements or business experience requirements. And that was an extremely successful program. I think we put all the money out.
Placed it all,
on that
yep.
within a pretty short period of time. So, And that's the typical way these programs are designed. Sorry,
We-
you still have a question?
Well, hang on just a second. So have we made it through the presentation?
We have.
We have.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're ready for questions? I
We
just
are.
didn't want to
Absolutely.
start
Oh, yeah,
going
no.
back and forth. Paul?
The total 87.5, that's to application for the CDE or application for the,
Both.
Both.
both? Okay.
Let's start to finish.
Might a library qualify as an investment project?
It's possible. Public facilities do qualify. It depends on its characteristics in terms of what backs it up. Are there bonds pledged also as part of the transaction? But public projects, nonprofit projects, and others are certainly eligible. And we've done both. I don't know that we've done a library. We've done medical clinics. We've done rehab centers. We've done a lot of kinds of public interest projects of that type.
And that was really the last question then is, what are some other examples of projects?
Well, in this area, gosh, there are so many that, I don't know if you're familiar with Prologis. It's the world's largest warehouse company. They have a facility at Rivergate, about a 300,000 square foot facility. And they wanted to lower their electrical costs. And so they put the largest solar array on an industrial building using new market tax credits to pay for about 17% of the total cost, which made it economical for them to do that. I've mentioned the Armory project. I've mentioned the Union Gospel Mission. Far West Steel is another. I don't know if you're familiar with the architectural firm ZGF in Portland. They put up a 30-story building that had a $5 million gap in financing, and so they used new market tax credits to fill the gap. The other project that I'd say was extremely important in Portland at least, the May Company, owned by Federated Department Stores, informed Mayor Katz, so we're going back in history a bit, but informed Mayor Katz that they were closing their store, which of course is right in the center of downtown Portland, because they could not make money in a 9-story building as a department store. But that model has kind of gone away. They could do it on 2 floors, maybe 3, but no more than that. And of course, they were having to pay for those additional floors, both in terms of taxes and operating costs. And so we were able to secure a hotel that was interested in occupying that space, and we helped finance that using new market tax credits, because hotels are very expensive, and this was a very risky project on top of a department store. Hadn't been done before in Portland, at least, and the result is that they have a very successful project that created.
Hotels usually require 40-50% equity.
They had
They
the,
used to, at least.
yeah, they had the equity, and they could prove up 65% occupancy, which is where they would break even and begin to make profit. What they were missing was about $14 million as a gap in that project because of the extensive rehabilitation. They had to cut the center of it out of the building in order to have rooms that had views and light, and so that was the extra cost of the project, and it's worked well. It created 320 jobs.
Well, and they also had to do seismic upgrade to the building, which was another
Very
$20 million
expensive.
on the project that couldn't be recouped. There is a very interesting project on the coast in Washington. It's in, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the names of the counties. It's a nonprofit built for wind turbines. And the idea is the wind turbines, they sell the electricity back into the power grid and then use the money generated from the sales to fund their nonprofit activities. And Portland Family United Fund Advisors was the tax credit, new market tax credit funder on that project. So, you know, and it was a public-private in the sense that all the revenue from the sales of the wind power goes to a nonprofit organization, but the developer was a private company, and there was a whole stack of funding from both energy tax credits, state funding. There was bonds involved. There was bank debt. I mean, it was a very, it was like
Grace Harbor County, I think.
yeah, Grace Harbor,
May have
exactly,
been.
thank you, yeah. So it's a very flexible tool. It can be used both for real estate development and for business lending. So if a business is doing an expansion, they can use it not only to build a facility, but also to fund purchase of equipment, additional administrative expenses. As Don was saying, there's only a few things that you can't do. Housing is one, because the federal government already has a housing program. And then a group of businesses that they call sin businesses, which includes golf courses. You can't do golf courses, tanning salons. There's 2 or 3 others.
Marijuana isn't the sin business?
Well, it just hasn't been classified here exactly. But we have seen situations where, and not that it would occur in this area, but where people have done, a destination resort, and the golf course wasn't covered, but you were able to build a hotel or other facilities with the money. So it's a gap financing tool. It's a way to kind of bring a lot of different resources together that wouldn't ordinarily come together, so.
I have to say, this is fascinating. In a previous life, I was a loan officer for a hard money lender.
Okay.
Not a big one. I mean, just, I think $5 million was the biggest deal we ever did. But we did some deals with the historical tax credit,
Yes.
which was more flexible than it would sound. And so this just opens up all kinds of possibilities. I'll wake up at night with lots of good ideas on
Well,
this.
Brent?
I have a question. I think here in Washougal, there's plenty of room for this in more down-to-earth
A lot of opportunity.
projects. I mean, wind turbines.
Well, yeah,
you
I
know,
understand.
Things like that.
Those are just examples.
Yeah, but I think there's plenty, Far West Steel is what I would call a more down-to-earth traditional project.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of opportunity for that here, and you're basically asking for, what, 21,875 from us?
Exactly, to the dollar.
Okay, well, I think, this may, I've been involved in this program a little bit before Vancouver attempted it. They didn't get very far with it. The project probably wasn't suited for it. But it does have a lot of potential, and it's, can make some things work here that wouldn't work otherwise.
And there's been a lot of talk about projects, so part of asking our partners to help see this is we're thinking of when we submit our projects, submitting 3 projects, 1 for each partner. The port has identified that they would like to submit a project out at Steigerwald. Camas has indicated they want to submit a project for their downtown. And we'll work through some of the details. They've got some ideas. Some of it could get very complicated very fast, and so we're going to utilize Don and Steve's years of expertise to try to vet that out and figure out what's going to be the most successful application. Let's not outthink ourselves in projects. And then we're thinking of doing a project here in the downtown. And we don't have any ideas around what that project looks like. That's why we'd want to work with our local stakeholders to try to figure out what that project is. But we'd want to submit a project on behalf of each partner to ensure that we're doing economic development for all 3 entities that represent Quita.
So the Steigerwald area does qualify as well.
It does. It
When
does.
you had mentioned the port area or the redevelopment, that's the first one that came to mind to me, especially with them being 100% leased up.
They are 100% leased
know.
up. We can't get space fast enough out there.
And sorry, Kim, I don't know how fast you can build buildings and how much equity you have and finances to build buildings to be able to fill them, because obviously we're filling everything we can put together. So if this is one of those that could help spur that stuff out there, that certainly is, gets into the higher dollar wages and.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Can you use projects like this to put in infrastructure for commercial development?
Yes.
Because we have areas in the city that need infrastructure the way Camas did years ago. what Nan Hendrickson did.
You're talking about utilities and roads?
Yes,
Infrastructure?
going up to that area up on Mount Norway.
But there has to be a revenue return for that project, and so it would have to have some sort of revenue-generating characteristic in order to support it. However, my yes answer was off-site improvements to a project which qualifies, sewer connections or lines or roads or those kinds of things which are essential to the project can be part of the overall financing structure, and we've done that. But for, a long road to open up new land, there's a different program that we would advocate be used as opposed to new market
Mountain
tax
Norway may
credits.
not be a distressed area. They characterize these things as, to qualify for a project, it has to be in a distressed area.
Right. This is a map, and I don't know if you can see it. The pink area is almost all of Washougal, if not all of Washougal, and it means that it qualifies at the highest level of interest by the new market tax credit program. And Camas also qualifies, not all of it, but at a lower level of priority. And so in terms of probability of success, provided you have a good project and the story is one that's compelling, you have a higher degree of success than others might have.
Let's not let the state see that and have them start developing Reed Island.
I think that'd be very problematic from
Yeah.
other departments.
Yeah. Is that Lady Island, is that?
No, there's
Well, you've
a,
got Reed Island on there, which surprised me because I don't believe that's even in the city limits, but
Well, it's probably
They
census
qualify in
tract.
Well, it's the feds who've said it.
Yeah.
right,
Without regard to.
It's, yeah, it's state park at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
got quite a few artifacts too.
other questions? So, Paul, will you be bringing something back to
We
us?
will.
formally?
We have a Quita board meeting this Thursday, so my hope is for us to be able to vet a agreement that the board wants to bring forward to the three entities, and then post haste get that out to each of our three partners. I know the port is taking this matter up at their next port meeting, which is next Tuesday. And then Camas contacted us late last week, indicated that they're putting their share in their supplemental budget. But that still takes further discussion by council and so forth, so
Yeah,
I'm not,
we'd need,
I would anticipate that we could have the, whatever form this agreement will take, it's an interlocal or professional services or whatever document it is in workshop on April 14th, if you have it ready.
Okay.
Then it can be vetted here in workshop, and then it can be acted upon 2 weeks after that. I can't remember if the 14th actually is the Monday or not, but whatever those dates are next. So we could have action. We did not specifically budget for this appropriation, this $20-ish thousand. We believe that late in the year, sometime during the fourth quarter, is when we typically look at whether or not we need to do a supplemental cleanup budget. We haven't had to do that in the last couple of years. And as you know, in the last couple of years, and as we suggest when we're doing our budgeting, budgets are estimates. They're our best estimates. Typically, at the end of the day, in the general fund, there's a little bit of room, and we wouldn't need supplemental appropriation. That's what we would expect to happen for this. The absolute worst-case scenario, if that didn't happen, and at the end of the year, we were projecting that we'd be right at the level of ink that we thought we would write, then we would ask for a supplemental appropriation for whatever would be left over. But I fully expect that we would be able to execute the agreement, that later next month you could authorize the mayor to enter into the agreement, and that at the end of the year it would be accommodated within the general fund budget.
Steve, you'd mentioned some dates that are coming up. If you want to get those in, does that meeting scenario that David just mentioned, does that meet those, or it sounded like we're pretty close?
Yeah, we're pretty close, but I think the best thing to do is talk to Paul about, since there's so many parties involved, it's hard for us to know exactly
so,
what all the different
so,
agreements.
right, so what we talked with about, we talked with the port last Tuesday and then Camas last Monday was The port kind of indicated that they could make their funds available sooner than may be possible by the two cities. Just they have less process. It doesn't that they don't have process, it's just not as much process. Kim's probably burning a hole in the back of
She
her
is.
head right now.
Yes. She's going,
Well, that's what I was gonna, why don't we just
But
consider this on the 14th?
all of it back to back,
Right.
workshop
We
to.
can do it. If the council's comfortable with that, it's not,
So-
then we can do that.
But we as an organization would get them going by putting up the retainer, because what we don't want to do is, if the partners are willing to do this, is take too much time working and waiting through the process, but let them get moving, knowing that our partners are definitely going to be in. So I want to make sure that they have adequate time, so we're not rushed at the end and we're not submitting good projects. I want to make sure that whatever we do at the end of the day, we are submitting projects that we think will win.
Sooner.
So, in that vein, can we make sure and get contact information for the two? You know, ask council members to make sure and go through the presentation as much as you can and questions vetted
Right.
back forth.
Absolutely. If you have questions, the other two entities have had questions, and we've been able to vet those back.
I just, in my experience with it, I just know that, that there's a September 30th deadline.
Right.
I just know that date comes awfully fast.
It does.
And,
Yep.
you know, it's better to not be scrambling at the end.
Right, Jennifer?
Yeah,
I'm
is it
sorry.
unusual, oh, that's all right. Is it unusual to have three separate entities going after these funds in conjunction with one another?
It really strengthens the proposal because it's the judgment of three separate bodies that are accountable to three different constituencies and have three different functions. So in a lot of ways, it's, you know, a dream team kind of application where you have that many jurisdictions saying, yeah, we want this, we need this, this is why we're here. At
Okay,
least
so
that's
are
my
the-
judgment.
Are the individual projects of the individual entities standing alone in the application process or not?
They are.
We're either all in or we're not.
The CDE would submit each application, so they would submit the three projects, but each of the projects would have its own application, correct?
No, they would all
Okay.
be part of the same application.
Okay.
So what you're
That's a
doing
great
is-
question, I just learned something new.
Yeah.
what you're
That worries me a
doing-
little bit.
Well, what you're doing is asking for a total allocation amount based on all of these criteria. The other thing to keep in mind is that especially once the CDE gets its first round, it's the second, third, fourth, fifth year of continuous allocations that really start to bring a significant benefit. A single allocation in a single year is really not the goal, because you can fund one project, but then the CDE has to shrink down to the size of just managing that single project for 7 years. What you really want is a number of allocations over a number of years so that the CDE can take on projects and bring in revenue from lots of different sources.
That was the problem with Vancouver.
Yes.
They just had one project.
Single, yeah.
Yeah. And so it should be
That's
seen as
just-
a
That's an
business.
advantage to be able to utilize all of the funds.
Absolutely.
Yes.
versus just a
Absolutely.
portion.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you have to prove that you're capable of placing those funds in real projects that benefit the community. And if you do that, then you get extra credit for demonstrating your capability.
How would you foresee the CDE being structured? I mean, I guess that's going to be part of the proposal, but.
It'll be part of
I
the,
assume the Port and Camas and Washougal would each have a seat at the table in the CDE.
right, and we,
Or
yeah,
that'd be the
they-
advisory committee or?
advisory committee is probably the most appropriate level. The governing board, we haven't really gone too far into it, because I didn't want to presuppose who's on a board and going out and selecting names, and then all of a sudden, we want to have it more organic, more coming from the community itself. A governing board for an entity like this probably be most appropriate to have private sector individuals, those that are going to make use of the program, or have significant influence on what happens in development and investment.
Or a mix of the.
Right, exactly. We definitely want to make sure our private sector is vested in the program and is making use of it. The last thing we want to do is create a program that no one wants to utilize.
And get funded.
Right. And I've had a project like that, you know, during
Turn it back.
early mayorhood where we had money and we had to give it back because we had folks that wanted to utilize it, but they just didn't know how to do it. And we just gave it back and other communities made use of the funds. This is a different animal, so we wouldn't see that happening with this, but we want to make sure, create a tool that's useful and actually can start driving some more substantial economic development.
Okay, Joe?
Is a community center on the list of types of programs?
We don't have a list yet, but it could be.
Just has to have a way to pay it back.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Other last questions? Steve, Don, thank you for being here.
Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you. For
Absolutely.
making time.
And you don't have to do wind turbines. That's,
That's actually,
you want to, but.
that's happened in other places as well, not to do with tax credits,
Interesting,
but
you
for
wanted-
nonprofits. That was interesting you brought that up.
Yes. No, and the several projects in downtown Portland were, used both historics and new markets, as well as energy tax credits. And so it, you know, again, you can
Stack
combine,
programs.
you can stack. It's, anyway. Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Renee, come on up. Tourism project updates.
Yes.
Heather's been back here so diligently going through and updating some things at the same time. And
Come on. Oh, so how do I,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
do you have a presentation loaded
Yeah,
up on there?
yes, it is.
Okay. So, let me get shocked. Is it in Keynote? Where's Keynote?
This one.
There it is. Okay, it's got a new icon.
That's right.
There you go. Tap that. It'll load.
Loading,
It's going to tell you that
okay, that everything's
this was
gonna
the
look the
practice,
same.
right? And then that's your presentation. Okay, that's goofy.
Well, it looks,
There we go.
okay. Very
Tap to
good.
advance.
Okay, well, very good. And I am going to speed through my part of the presentation because at the end of my time, we have Heather Jordan here who's going to walk us through the new website. But, whoop, how do I go back?
Swipe to the left. Start right and swipe left.
Okay,
There you
I
go.
think I'm where I want to be. So this fall, I was hired by the city on a contract basis to help on your strategic plan, portion of that, which is economic development, community engagement, communications, basically to help put together a website that is visitor-focused, and also to look into events that would bring people to our beautiful city. These and myself are paid through the Lodging Tax Advisory Fund, and both Karen and Sean sit on that Lodging Tax Advisory Committee and have done a great job of offering direction and guidance through my work. First of all, there's a lot going on Washougal, and this is just a list from well, April, that got out of order, April, May, through the end of the year. There are lots of events here in Washougal. That's interesting that when I started really looking to see that many there. But as I first started to consider what events to try and bring to the area, I first met with folks that are already have people coming from out of town to visit them, the Best Western Pendleton, talked to Friends of the Gorge, Chamber, those kinds of organizations. I also looked into what types of events are going on in similar sized communities. I looked at what's happening, you know, downriver of us. Also looked at what would fit our brand image, and I'll talk a little bit more about brand when I talk about the website, because we did some work on branding. And then also conceive of things that would actually bring people to the area, big enough and interesting enough to bring folks in. So the first event, and I should have introduced him to begin with, but Terry Click is here, and he is the event organizer for the SUP Salmon Classic. Stand-up paddleboard Salmon Classic is going to be Cottonwood Beach over Labor Day weekend. It supports the brand that, again, I'll talk to, that we found out with the website, this outdoor recreation. It really attracts a great group of visitors to the area. We also plan the event right between a big event in Hood River and another big one in Seattle. So we already have world-class athletes in the region. So we'll be able to draw from California, Florida. I think Terry said a fellow from Montreal is already signed on. So this will be an international event. We also, in planning it, have put out large cash money prizes because that is the way to get the high caliber competitor and the interest of the SUP community. Also, part of the event is making it kind of a festival down there with vendor booths, food booths, clinics, that stand-up paddleboard clinics. Also, Terry's been working with the Chinook tribe, and there will be a Native American blessing and some music to entertain folks. In this culture, it's usually like Hawaiian blessings, so we're giving it a Northwest spin with our Native Americans being there to do that. And also, there's local support building. We have a number of local entities that are our sponsors. Also, this group was, I think, very I guess, visionary when you approved the pickleball courts. As I looked into pickleball, this group is a great group to market to. They travel, they have money, they love to shop, they're very social, they eat out, and pickleball is just, I think, going to be a really great event for Washougal. Our first event is coming up May 3rd, and it's actually going to be a fundraiser to help raise funds for the new city courts. Mike Wolf is the fellow I'm working with this event, and he knows how to put tournaments on. And this clinic is going to help introduce pickleball to the community of Washougal. This isn't a visitor initiative, and I'm volunteering my work on this because we're going into the schools, we're getting PE teachers to come out, we're going to have clinics at the schools to get kids excited and bring their parents. So we want to excite the community of Washougal about pickleball so they use those great courts that the city is putting in. And also leading to the next event, which is July. And this would be a much larger event. It would be at the high school because our courts won't be ready yet. But we'll use the tennis courts, maybe even the gym. And this first event is just more of a fun tournament, but the real prize is July of 2015. It will be a sanctioned competitive event. We will get, again, people from up towards Canada, down to California, traveling for this. These people travel for these things. And between our new courts and our high school facilities, this could be the biggest pickleball tournament in the region. So I'm very excited. And this group of pickleball people are passionate and bright and hard workers, and this is, I think, going to be a really...
Does the national champion live here in Washougal?
Yes, in fact, that, well, I think Vancouver. There's a Vancouver and Portland, two people that are nationally ranked, and they're going to do an exhibition on May 3rd. In fact, we're going to stop everything else and just set the bleachers up to watch the two top in the nation pickleballers go at it. It should be very exciting. Another event is this notion of Washougal Discovery Day, and it's way out. It's a year from May. And basically this was conceived after going around and talking to Staggerwald and Cape Horn and these entities that have all these beautiful attractions. And we thought, well, how can we bring people to Washougal to explore what we have to offer? And so we're partnering with all these local groups to host a variety of hikes that are going to be led by topic experts. And that's the key. They're going to be, it's not just a walk up Cape Horn, it's going to be a walk up Cape Horn with a botanist that knows all about wildflowers, or a geologist that's going to take them up Beacon Rock, or a bird watching in Staggerwald. So really, even photography, a bike tour, a history tour.
I have someone in mind for that.
Yeah. So, Roger? Oh, yes, he's on my hit list. We would, again, promote this Discovery Day through regional associations, the Audubon, Friends of the Gorge, Washington Trails Association. But the key then to us is that we would participants back to downtown, again, have a festival. We tried to think of how can we make it uniquely Washougal, so we're looking at recruiting local artisans from Washougal, maybe Camas and Stevenson, to have displays, we'll have music, a beer garden, have kind of a culminating event downtown that after all these hikes, everybody will come back. Hopefully the community will join in, but again, the hope is to bring visitors from out of town with these credentialed experts. Additionally, Friends of the Gorge is going to have a stay and play weekend that weekend, so they will have offerings the next day on Sunday. So we'll have heads on beds at the Best Western, which again is where all this is funded from. So, okay, so backing up, website development. So that was another part of what I was doing, and we started out with going to the 3 local web designers, and so grateful that D Studio 21 and Heather Jordan won the contract. She's been great to work with, and I would highly recommend her services to anyone looking to have a website designed. To begin with, she and I sat with a group of stakeholders that know Washougal well, and we came up with different words that they felt visitors would use to describe Washougal. We also came up with some key values, and this is the branding that I talked about. When looking for events, I went back to these words and these ideas to think, okay, what would work here? What do we want to be known for? Then also, using this group, we got feedback on Washougal attractions and really developed a look and feel and tone for the site. Here's a look at some of the advertising that we've created and sort of tipping our hand to sort of the look and feel of the site. We are going to put a press release together to regional news and business news venues that we are asking people to keep discovering Washougal and visit our visitwashougal.com website. We have advertising budget and going into some regional tourism and gorge-related publications, and also creating collateral pieces. And this is a really good one. You may have seen this one already. This is Where to Eat in Washougal. And this came out of some of my research with Pendleton and Best Western as a need that people had. We had done a first draft of this, and now this one has the Visit Washougal QR code and the website. So these will be around, and so hopefully people tear it off and take it with them, and they'll have that website and all. So this is going to be a really great supporting piece to the website, as well as Chris down at Best Western said we could make little room tint cards, again, directing people to the website. Yeah, actually, go ahead and send it around. Also, I've been talking to Heather about establishing some social media around the website. Anymore, you really need that day-to-day or week-to-week touch to help keep a website fresh by using social media. Looking ahead, my plan is to continue building the website. Training contributors is a real challenge. We have a business listing part of this website. We sent letters first to all of our business inviting them to sign on. And that, we didn't get very many participants, so I sent emails. That didn't get very many, so then I started calling. And we are starting to build that business directory, but I think that I may just need to go door to door with a laptop and say, let's do this thing, let's get you on. Also, events with our events page, I can put them in, but then I would like other people that are hosting events to know that they can enter their own information. It would go through me, and then I would post it, but I need to do some training there. And also really keep the information up to date and relevant. Again, build the social media. Continue to look for some quality events to bring to the city. And then I have been playing with these guys back here, at least letting them know our tourism efforts as they work on their project at Portland State University. So anyway, that's my sped up presentation, because I want time for questions, and also would love to have Heather
So what have you been working on?
Oh my. It's been busy. It has been busy. So if you could, Rose, have her connected. I do want to say too, before you see this, that we have paid not a dime for photography. We have built this site on the good grace of some wonderful local photographers. Fireworks Photography did a wonderful thing for us in giving us a half a day of studio time. The models that you see that we've used throughout the site are really people from Washougal that really do these things. And we thought it would be authentic, which was one of the branding words that had come up. So, but yeah, fireworks photography was huge. You know, Mitch, Hammond Tree, Wanda down here at the Senior Center, Friends of the Gorge photographer has been just great. So you'll be struck, I think, with the beauty of this, and just know that, again, we paid nothing for photography. So, yes, ma'am.
Okay, while we're doing that,
Yes.
I'm just wondering about playing on the Washougal. Do you have ideas of ways to promote playing on the river? It's one of the greatest gyms that we have. And
Yeah.
I see fishing but
We have
playing on that river
right,
is so fun.
right.
The
We have
sandy
swimming,
hole
yeah.
and
Yeah, and
bouncing down the
kayaking.
river, kayaking.
It's addressed in the website, actually. We list with swimming separately, kayaking, and fishing.
In fact, that's what I put up on the board, was sandy swimming hole.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Where they used to give swim lessons back in the 40s.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Ooh, burn. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, so I'd like to hand the presentation off to Miss Heather. Oops, where's it going?
Oh, the QR code isn't up and running yet.
No.
No.
Coming
that's-
soon.
Right, exactly, that's why I haven't released that version of the map. I'd like to just do a little bit more quality control and really dive into this site and hope to launch it. We're hoping to launch it right after this meeting, but probably the end of the week or early next week we'd like to launch. And that's when I would start distributing these.
We're very close, but we didn't want to put the presentation off again. So Dawn, do not put in the paper that it's up and live.
If it is by tomorrow.
Paper comes out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Coming soon.
Yes.
Coming soon.
That's right.
Yep, great. Okay. Did you have any event questions about the Salmon Classic, since we have Terry here, all the way from Montana?
Wow.
He's actually Camas, born and bred. We went to high school together. He's a local boy, but
How do you actually catch one?
Catch what?
Salmon.
salmon.
You're talking about the salmon.
No, this
stand-up
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 paddleboard.
salmon.
Yeah.
You catch a stand-up paddleboard.
You could talk about the novice. There's a novice class, right?
Yeah.
There is,
Yeah.
in your honor.
Yeah.
Brent was gonna be on the team, and I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
Would be kind of hard
I want
to
on the team.
fish on
novice team.
stand-up paddleboard.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody will get me up.
There's a lot of local excitement about it, and you know, I guess, yes, Jennifer.
So, okay, we're looking at all these great events and everything, but who will be organizing the social part, the vendors and all of that? I mean, what's the plan? Is it the group, the SCP group, or do we do it?
Right, yeah.
What do we do?
I am sort of the liaison with the city, so as the event touches, like maybe some of the operational stuff or the facility, I'm
Is there a
helping.
committee?
Yeah. Terry has a group of
As the event-
volunteers.
I can probably answer that,
Yeah.
Renee. As the event director, I'm organizing all of it, but I have lots of help, and Renee's a big help. Anything that touches on the city or the county, she basically breathes into for me. If I need to talk to local folks, since she lives here, she's the local expert. So huge help there. But I'd say together we've developed a plan, and there's no part of the plan that hasn't been touched. We're sanctioned by the World Paddle Association, which is the sanctioned body for pro stand-up paddle sports. We've already obtained permits from the Coast Guard to use the river. We have permits pending from the county, which are approved. They just have to tie up some details. There are the entertainment, the food vendors, coordinating with the health department. It's all been breathed into. But this is late August, and I can't tell you we have all the answers yet. We're working in most areas. We know what the plan is, but we don't have put it all quite together yet. I'll be here all week, and I have a walkthrough with Sean on Thursday on the beach to show him what the venue will look like and get his expertise. I have meetings with most of our sponsors through the week. I have meetings with Renee through the week, so it's all very organized. The website, our website is up. You can go to supsalmonclassic.com. You can register right now, and we're receiving registrations now, even though it's a long ways out. We have most of our sponsors in place. We need to raise a little bit more money, but I'm feeling really good about how that's going. There is a national magazine called Stand Up Paddle Magazine that will be hitting the streets probably next week, if not next week, the week after. We have an article written in that magazine about our event. They're excited about how a community is excited about a stand-up paddleboard race and how this is an evolution in the sport, and that's what the article is about. And it also includes a 2-page spread in the magazine. So,
Terry, I don't want to cut you off, but we need to get back to this one because we've got some other guests that have still got to go before we hit 6:30, so.
Oh.
Yeah. Here we go.
Okay. We'll keep this real
Your website,
quick.
though, will not tell you how to catch a salmon, correct?
no, but it will
Okay.
tell you how to catch a paddle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to build off of what Renee has already shared, in developing the website, we really wanted to utilize advertising and essentially have that reflected in the website itself. So as far as having photographs taken of local individuals such as Renee, who is a part of Friends of the Gorge, and trying to show people who they could potentially run into or interact with when they come to Washougal, and using that to advertise the gems of our community. And we listed 10 of them. And as you see, we have 3 that are rotating in the slider. The slider is intended to not only build off the web, or build off the advertisements that are out there, but also to help generate a point of interest. So when they come into the website every quarter, we would update and replace with maybe 3 other attractions, so they can throughout the year see different
That was supposed to be
attractions
on
over the
Sunday.
course of 12 months.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Why is it doing that? It didn't shut it off.
Okay, so that's the slider, and then if you were to, it rotates if they hover over for a particular point or some time, then it will stop, so they can take some time to look at what is being offered. This also allows them to click through and go to hiking from the slider if they desire to do so. We have our Washougal, Washington prominent with "You have to experience it for yourself," which is a tagline that we've been using in our advertisements. And then the Discover Guide is essentially going to be similar to what Renee passed around earlier that you ripped off. And we're using that as a way to acquire emails and people's names so that we can reach back to them and advertise. So clicking on this, pop up, fill in some information, then download the guide before they even go. So that way they can start to make plans if they are overachievers and want to have that all figured out before they leave the door. And then we have sliders. Again, this is something that can always be altered and updated. It leads to other interior pages. So we have Explore the Outdoors. So this is featuring different activities that are offered in Washougal. Shop and Dine is its own category, as well as featured events. So again, these are all going to be pre-selected. Renee can control what's being viewed on the homepage at all times. We have some testimonials, and then we also have weather, another place for trying to gather information from people with an email address so we can follow up on them. So that's the homepage. And we're just going to go through each templated layout. So then we're going to the hiking page. And this is See and Do is laid out the same way all the way through. So what you can expect is a header image, a side column that has different featured information. So in this case, maybe it's a featured tour. Oh, that's weird. I'm not sure why that just happened. The Play and Stay program, all this information we pulled from other websites and tried to gather all the information and put it in one location so any visitor could come here and find out what's available when it comes to hiking in this particular case. And if there's maybe a Discover Pass or something that needs to be purchased, we're also putting that into the sidebar just so that they're prepared. So now we're going over to Plan to Play, and this is featured events. And we have upcoming events in the sidebar, and we have our featured events that are our largest draw. We really want to have them prominent and have the visuals there when they first come to the page. Like Renee was talking about, add an event. There's that feature where if there's a business owner or someone in the community that wants to add an event, they can do that. If you go to more events, this is where a lot of those events will be showcased.
Those events, those ad events go to you for
Correct.
approval and
Exactly. It will not publish until she says yes. Okay, so that's events. And then we have the business directory, which is another important component. And another part of the website really was try to bring local businesses together and be able to give them a location that is appealing to visitors and maybe work together to create events or different activities that build more of a community or sense of community when it comes to communicating with each other. So this is a map that lists where different business types are located. It's color-coded. And then if we were to select on eat and drink, that would narrow the search results down to just those options. So you can just scroll on through and see what's available. And then with the interactive map, if you scroll over, it will actually tell you which business that is. And obviously you can zoom in and see the cross streets and all that. It's fully interactive. So that, in an abbreviated version, is a lot of the key elements that are on the website at this point in time.
Yeah, there's a lot more. It's very robust.
Yeah, it's a lot of information.
Very exciting.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Awesome. Estimate of when it's live?
Well, we're getting very close.
Very close.
I would hope by the end of this week.
Yep.
I really think that we're nailing a lot of our to-do lists, so.
Yep. And we just want to, we're checking and double checking and adding new links here and there. And I might say as well that as I've been working on like this map and the website and talking to different businesses, I need you to know there's really a sense of excitement and appreciation to council that you have asked that this work be done, and it is being appreciated. And I'm getting that appreciation, so I want to be sure, and I always mention, of course, I'm funded by the city, and just there's a lot of gratitude and a lot of excitement about what's coming. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Renee.
Yeah, you bet.
Mitch, you've got a lot of guests.
It's not connected yet.
Yeah, I just wanted to get it pulled up there first.
The whole gang came.
Most of them. There's three out of the country.
Celebrating spring break.
Council, as you recall, staff introduced the Washougal Waterfront a Community Connected project back at our February 24th workshop, and operating under the name Convergence Community Planning, 6 students with the Portland State University Master of Urban and Regional Planning program are working on this project. We're fortunate that we have 3 of them here on their spring break. I'm very thankful that they have showed up. We have provided a copy of the work plan. It's also in the Dropbox, I believe. But allow me to introduce Julia Metz, Irene Kim, and Victor Caesar. And I also would like to point out that this is a joint project with the Port, and Kim Noah is here to show her support, Finance Director, if you don't know, Port of Kamloops-Washougal. So with that, I will turn it over to who's running the Irene.
So I'm the graphic design lead for this project. She's the community engagement coordinator and the communications lead. So I'm just going to go over very quickly an overview of this project, then Julia will kind of take you through our communication process. So we've been working, like Mitch said, very closely with Kim and Mitch on this vision plan for the 13-acre waterfront site that used to be where the former Hamilton lumber mill used to be. So that area is very ripe for development, but there's also some challenges associated with it. So 13. So the site is pretty detached from downtown, so there's limited access and a lack of connectivity between and to these areas. There's also some concerns from businesses and developers about how the future development could impact them. But despite these challenges, there's a lot of really great opportunity and some existing momentum to develop a really strong community vision and identity for the waterfront to address these issues and work with the community. So our purpose for this project is to develop a community vision for the waterfront that connects and complements the downtown and supports the creation of a local and regional identity for the city of Washougal. So with that, we are working under 4 guiding principles and to provide a framework for this vision and also start kind of provide a framework for engaging with community. And you can find these in more detail on page 9 of the work plan. The timeline for this project is very short because it is following our academic calendar. So we're about halfway through now. We have about 2.5 months left.
You want to graduate on time.
Yes, please.
Summer.
We'd like to. So we have to be very diligent with our time. And so hopefully with that, these are some of the deliverables that we're planning to be working on over the next few months. And I won't go through all of them now, but so our final vision plan will be completed June 9th. And then with that, I'll turn it over to Julia, and she'll tell you a bit more about communication.
Hi, everybody. So as Irene mentioned earlier, I'm the engagement coordinator for this project. And so just to note, on page 10 in the work plan, there's a lot more detail about the engagement process that we're looking at doing here. I'm just going to provide a really brief overview for you right now. But I just want to emphasize first that we are really looking to build off of past engagement processes that have already occurred, both through the port and the city. And so this includes looking at the strategic plan that the city recently passed. There's a lot of really great information in there that we've used already, including to kind of help with develop those guiding principles that we talked about. And so we're kind of dividing up our engagement plan into 2 phases. The first phase is really focusing primarily on outreach. And so that's us going out there, letting the community know that this project exists, but also letting them know that we want their input and letting them know how that's going to look. And so some of you have already met while we've been out doing those things. So that has included so far the Camas First Fridays. We were out there on March 7th. We went to the Red Barn Playground ribbon cutting. And then this Saturday, we will be at the Camas Washougal Babe Ruth opening ceremony. And that is at the Lewis Block Park. And so what we're really trying to do there is tie into these existing events, so that way we're going where the people already are. And just like I said, really building awareness around the project so that we can get a solid base as we move forward and try and get engagement and input from the public. And so at the same time, we've also been working to tie in some regional outreach and research, taking into consideration that there is some desire, of course, for both this project but also Washougal generally to be kind of a regional destination. And so far we've worked with Renee Carroll, who we just heard from. We've also been working with Friends of the Gorge, and we've developed a kind of regional tourism survey, which we're looking to launch tomorrow. And that's really just looking at a really high-level understanding of why people come to the gorge, and then that helps us figure out how Washougal can kind of tie into that and complement some of those existing draws that the gorge has. And so April is when we kind of start to transition a little bit into more of the engagement side of things. And that really gets launched with our kickoff event, which is on April 12th at the port. And we will also be launching a community survey at the same time to complement that kind of regional tourism survey. And so the event itself will be kind of like an open house, so we'll have some boards, some case studies, some information about the project, but also just looking to create kind of a fun environment to bring some of these people together that we've been doing outreach to. And like I said, really starting to transition into that engagement where we start collecting feedback from them. We are hoping to get representation from both the port and the city there, so if any of you are interested in joining us that day, just to attend, but maybe also to just speak briefly, please let me or Mitch know. I'd love to see some of your smiling faces there that day with us. And then the rest of April will consist primarily of completing one-on-one and group interviews and discussions with our stakeholders to really hone in on specific parts and details that really interest them or any concerns that they might have. And page 12 in the work plan kind of outlines some of those stakeholders that we're looking to talk with and that we've already started engaging with in a little bit. So on the next slide, you can kind of see what the engagement timeline itself starts to look like, how all these pieces are coming together. And this piece will obviously end a little bit sooner than the rest of the plan because we need to be able to incorporate it into the plan. So we're looking at May 10th tentatively to do a recognition event, and that's really our way of thanking everyone that's provided input, but also letting them begin to see how we're tying those into the recommendations that we've started drafting for that final plan. And so that's all we have for you now. The next slide has our contact information on there. Please feel free to contact any of us, but Mitch also, of course, knows how to get a hold of us. And at this time, we would be happy to at least try and answer some questions if you guys have any.
Yes, I have a question. You were all supposed to be gone. It's your spring break.
We're just that dedicated, and it's so beautiful out today, too.
Just so you know, it's always like this. Sure.
Oh, okay.
Incorporate that in however you want.
Perfect. I'm also going to pass around some of the pieces that we've been using in the outreach so far, and y'all are welcome to keep them or pass them out to people you know who might be interested in seeing them.
Remind me what the course is that this is with. Is this for a course?
It's like our workshop. It's basically like a capstone thesis type of, yeah, it goes for two terms. We're starting our
I
second
did mine
term.
on the Ethiopian economy, so.
That might be setting the bar a little high.
We really appreciate the partnership with the school. And I got my master's here, not in this program, so I feel a sense of
Where's your
pride.
capstone on?
I didn't have to do a capstone. I'm
How
sorry.
long ago?
I had to take 6 extra units.
Oh.
So I got to read a few more books. But this is a great opportunity for you and for us. So.
We're very excited.
And the port, of course, right? Us is the port, yeah. And our
Council?
downtown, you know.
Questions for our presenters, for Mitch, for Kim?
What is the event on the 12th at the port going to look like? What's going on?
Some of the pieces that we're looking at. So we're, like I said, we're going to have a variety of different boards with some of this information as well as additional information, and really kind of hoping to do some dialogue with the public about those. But we're also looking to kind of have, some more fun elements like a photo booth for people to kind of, integrate family into it as well. Hopefully we're working on seeing if we can coordinate doing some tours of the site itself that day as well, as long as the weather behaves itself. And looking to kind of do some general activities similar to what we've been doing when we're out tabling. And so we've had maps that we have posted up. We're asking questions that people can answer by placing a pin on the map. The one that we had a couple weeks ago was, what do you like to do outdoors? And that is kind of a fun and easy way to get people engaged, but also starts to feed in a little bit into understanding what really gets the community excited about doing things. And so we're finalizing all the details on that now, but kind of a combination of, like I said, a fun kind of party, but also having an informational engagement piece as well
But
with
in
it.
the past, you were going, like you said, where the people already are to
Right.
different events.
Mhm.
There's no other event going
Right.
on at this one.
Exactly.
This is your baby.
This one's our baby. And the idea with doing that reach prior to that is to kind of hopefully get a solid base of people knowing about the project before trying to do an event on our own. So we'll see. Yeah.
So tell people about it as much as possible.
Yeah.
Where are y'all from?
I am originally from California in the Bay Area, but I've lived in the Pacific Northwest for the past 3, almost 4 years now. So
I'm from Portland. Native. I've been living in Portland since I was 7, and then went to San Francisco for about 6 years and came back for grad school about 2 years ago.
From Houston, Texas. I just moved here for the program a year and a half ago.
So,
Got another text on it.
Mitch, do we have copies of
Awesome.
these pieces at the front desk?
No, that's actually Julia brought. The extras are for me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you guys again for taking this on as your capstone. Be interesting
Thank
getting
you.
outsiders, or 6 different outsider
Yeah.
perspectives on the community and what's down there, what's down here in the downtown, and the rest of the community as well. So, thank you for agreeing. So, how do we grade you on this?
nicely, I hope.
We have a professional designer here, and I just showed her your logo, and she said it was nicely done. So,
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Enjoy your week off.
I will leave some of my business cards here for you guys too.
That'd be
If you
great. Thank you.
contact me directly. I'll pass those around for you.
Jennifer, do you want to take a try at this in the couple minutes we've got, or you want to hang around for council?
I can hang around.
Okay.
You get 2.5 minutes.
Well, public might want to speak. I don't want to deprive them of their.
I was going to say, with that, we will hold
Wasn't supposed to go on.
all of the finance items over to their council meeting themselves and add those in. Are there any members of the public that would like to address council? It is a quiet group. I have nothing for you at this time. Any items from council?
There was just one, there was an email from Councilmember Lindsay today regarding the potential purchase of Schmidt property adjacent to the cemetery. We've all received emails, I assume.
Yes.
Regarding that particular piece of business, and she's interested, Councilmember Lindsay was interested in getting it on a future agenda.
and we should probably
And
meet in executive session.
Yeah,
probably.
it will not be on a regular agenda. It will be executive session. We've got an executive session this evening to speak about that. So.
Oh, it's already on, okay, wonderful.
Well, the executive session was for something else, but we can add it in. We were in
I already have.
oh, okay.
We didn't see each other before the meetings.
Gotcha. We got,
And just a caution to council members, when we're talking about property acquisitions, we probably do not want to bring those up in the public forum to begin with, so. There's a little bit of a conflict in there, and we get put in odd positions, so. And I've already communicated all that back to Councilmember Lindsay as well, so.
actually, you don't even want to talk about the fact that we're talking about an executive session.
Well, normally we don't, but now we are, I guess, so. Okay, with that, we are adjourned until 7 o'clock. We will be back here for regular session.